Hi, I'm Kevin Eikenberry, and what follows is my opening session in Virtual LeaderCon 2020. Don't know what Virtual LeaderCon is? You can go to virtualleadercon.com. Virtual LeaderCon 2021 is upon us the week of September 20th. You can join us for free. Hear from me and 40 other thought leaders in the area of leadership development, organizational development, and professional development, all for you for free at virtualleadercon.com. If you miss the live event, you'll still want to go to virtualleadercon.com to get more information and to catch up on some of this great content. And now, my opening session from Virtual LeaderCon 2020. I want to talk about what it means to be a remarkable leader now. And there are two key things to this that are important. The idea of being a remarkable leader and doing it now. And so that's really what I want to spend a few minutes with you talking about. And I felt like it was a good way to start our time together. So the idea of being a remarkable leader started when I wrote this book in 2007. It came out. It's called Remarkable Leadership, Unleashing Your Leadership Potential One Skill at a Time. And the book is focused on 13 skills that help you be a more effective leader. And I promise, I'm not going to go through 13 skills in the next few minutes. And in fact, I'm going to actually do a little different place than that, if you will. And I think that I'm going to ask Marissa to add that call to action because I'm not sure I know exactly what I'm supposed to do there. There it is. Thank you. So when I wrote the book, as I said, we talked about skills. And I believe that for us to be an effective leader, we must have the skills. We must do the stuff. But I believe now, as time has gone on, that I believe there are three big things that must be in alignment in order for us to be highly effective leaders. And the first is getting the right mindset. We have to have the right mindset. If we don't have the mindset right, we can't possibly get the rest of it right. If the mindset doesn't match up with the skills that we learn, we won't apply them, or it won't make sense to us, or we won't do them well. And skills alone, intellectual knowledge, or even understanding of a skill, or I know I really ought to do that, isn't enough either. We must go out and actually do it. We must change our habit. And so to be a highly remarkable leader, we must not only know what the new skills are, but we must apply those new skills. And that habit set is what we think about, or how we frame the idea of going out and actually doing it, putting it to work. And so you see that little button down there that says learn more about the remarkable way. We have a monthly process, a learning process that's designed to build one skill at a time, 1 month at a time, that focuses on all three of these: the mindset, skill set, and habit set. But what I want to do today is just give you a little bit of a few ideas about those things as we go. And so to be a remarkable leader requires at least these four things, and all of these have mindset, skill set, and habit set components. That is, we must keep our roles and responsibilities in focus and balance. We must be good communicators, great communicators. Really, we must be influencers and realize that as leaders, we are in the influence business, and we must be learners. I told you earlier I'd come back to learning before we were done. So I want to talk about each of these four things for a few minutes before I move into where we're living today and how it all relates to what we're doing right now. In our book, The Long Distance Leader, we introduced the 3-0 model. And the 3-0 model is meant to say, what are the things that make up being a leader? And it is that as a leader, we are responsible for reaching outcomes, whether you want to call that a goal or a mission or a strategy or whatever. We're trying to take people to a valuable place that's not where we are today. And we're not doing it by ourselves. We're doing it with others, right? And we can't do it alone. And yet we're a part of this too. The whole leadership world doesn't revolve around us, but who we are and how we lead has a huge impact on those outcomes that are set and reached, and how others will engage with us to do that. So I think about this 3-0 model as a way to think about not only skills, but also that mindset to realize that we have to be thinking about how to balance those. The mindset idea here is that we must know that all of these things matter and that it isn't about us, and yet we can't take us out of the equation. That it is about outcomes, but not to reach for outcomes by burying our people. And that it isn't just about the people and just being nice and wonderful and fun, but also that we're trying to reach a desired outcome. It's finding the balance of these things. And the highly remarkable leaders that I know understand that all of these matter, but know how to put them in balance. And the skill set is literally all of the things that it takes for us to get results with and through others. And so that's how I like to think about that, is getting outcomes with and through others. That's what leadership is really about. And the habit set is that we're balancing all three of these things every day. So let's just jump ahead to think about what's going on right now. When we first sent everybody home, when COVID happened, a lot of people, leaders and organizations shifted a little bit more to the people piece, right? We got to be careful. We got to take care of our people. We got to get the work done, but we're focused more on the people, more on others, and a little less on outcomes. And as time is going on now, we're saying we've got to do both of these things. We got to be very careful about this. We don't forget the outcomes. And what a lot of people have found is we're getting the basic work out, but we're not getting anything else accomplished. So finding that balance. And so the habit set is realizing that this is a picture of our job and figuring out how to balance it every single day. And this is part of what it means to be a remarkable leader. And here's a stat. I wrote this slide. I said, well, I don't need to put anything else on this slide first. I just need to say this. You can't lead if you can't communicate. I've asked hundreds of groups over time to make a list of what are the things that make for a highly effective leader. And the communication is always on the list, always. In fact, usually multiple parts of communication are on the list. And so you can't lead if you can't communicate, and you can't be a remarkable leader if you can't be a remarkable communicator. And so here's what I do want you to do. I want you to go back to work, get your chat fingers ready. And I want you to define for me in 6 words, exactly 6 words, what communication is. If you had to define communication in 6 words, what would it be? I'm going to take a pause. Take a drink of my tea while you think about that and give me your 6 words in the chat box, please. Define communication in 6 words. I know you're all thinking and you're saying, okay, Kevin, what if I've only got 4 words? Well, I really want 6 words. I'm going to try to read them as we come in. Ed, transmitting an idea to another person. Relay information effectively to others. Make sure you are understood, Peggy says. Transfer information between 2 people. Conveying a message in a timely manner. Listening and hearing the other person. Creating shared understanding between all participants. Give you another minute or so if you have any more. Delivering empathy in simple words. Some great statements. There's Virginia Tech. Consistent, clear, actionable information to all. Seeking to understand and be understood is to touch people's lives with clarity. Love, effective, compassionate, relevant, connect, authentic. So exchanging information to be understood. So keep sending them in. That's great. And so Adrian, another audible here. Let people keep chatting them in. And when we come back at the end, I want you to pick somebody, whichever one you want to pick, and we'll give them something. How about that? Okay. So you're in charge of figuring out who that's going to be. But I want to just say this. A number of you said nice things already about my daily emails. And one of the things that people say to me, Kevin, is you have a way of saying things simply. I take that as a compliment. Here's my 6 words. And there's a tremendous amount of great things here, including all these things about listening and creating dialogue and empathy and all these things, engaging people. Like there's awesome stuff here. Here's my 6 words. Message sent, message received, message understood. And so often as leaders, even when I mentioned great leaders are great communicators, most of us are thinking about the sending part, aren't we? Well, I sent them the email. How many times do I have to tell them? What else do I need to say before they'll get it? Like we say those things in our head, maybe not out loud. And all of those things are about, I said it. Why didn't they get it? Repeat that again. Communication is message sent, message received, message understood. Now, there's a tremendous amount of great stuff in all of the stuff in the chat here. Great wisdom, which just proves we got smart people here with us, Adrian. But here's the thing. All of those, there's a tremendous amount of other things great things that come from doing this all well, including the relationships, including all those other things. And remembering that it's two ways. I'm sending and then you're sending back. So the listening piece all comes in, it all fits. But I just want to make a comment about this piece of that you can't lead if you can't communicate means that you've got to remember, the mindset is you got to remember that getting the message received is the key. And as many of you are saying here, that message could include that you care. That message could include compassion and lots of other things, for sure. But if we want to be great communicators, the mindset has to start with it's about getting reception. And Adrian and other members of my team could say that, could definitely tell you that there are times when I probably get frustrated and probably visibly frustrated when my message didn't get through. But I'd like to think that also there are many times like, okay, I clearly didn't, that's not what I meant. Let me try again. Because at the end of the day, for us to get upset about someone not getting it is not valuable. What's valuable is what do I need to do differently so that they do get the message that I had? And there's lots of reasons why they didn't get it, including us maybe not being clear enough to start with. So what about the skills? I got several things for you in skills. There's probably, this could be a whole day workshop on this slide, I suppose. But the skills are, to be an effective communicator as a leader, we've got to be able to do that one-on-one or across a webcam, but with an individual. We've got to be able to do it with groups. Oftentimes when I ask groups about great leaders, they'll say, well, they're good public speakers. I agree with that. And the skills to be an effective communicator as a speaker to a group is different than it is one-on-one. And we need to master both of those sets of skills. And now more than ever, we need to master different media. We have to be able to communicate an email and in a chat message and on our phone and on our webcams and face-to-face. And we've got to be able to communicate effectively in meetings. And all of that relates to the mediums that we have to get better at. And I'll say a little bit more about that a little later. I think it's important for you to remember that as a leader, I'm going to go on the assumption that everyone that's here is a leader. Everyone that's watching and listening is a leader, either now or aspiring to be one. Here's the fact. Whether you're the owner of the company or whether you're a frontline leader, this is true. You are a leadership conduit. You are a leader in the middle, which means that you are leading others. And so you are the voice and the face of those above you, of the organization, to your team. When they think of the team, when they think of the organization, they think of you. You're the face and you're the voice. So you're responsible for communicating things downward effectively, but you are also the face and the voice upward, aren't you? You have a responsibility and an opportunity to share information upward to help people get it, to hear what's going on in the organization. This is the undercover boss syndrome, right? No one is telling those undercover bosses what's going on in the organization, so they go out to find out for themselves. You have a responsibility to run the information and create the communication sent, received, understood in both directions. And that's a set of skills. Yeah, there's a little mindset there, but that's a set of skills that you can learn. And when you learn those and master those, you become a more effective leader. And lastly, habits. Well, here's the good news about communication. We're all doing it all day, right? We're all doing it all day long as leaders, as friends in our neighborhoods with our masks on, I suppose, right? And so that's critical to our success, is to communicate in all parts of our lives. And so what does that mean? That means that you have every opportunity to practice that you could possibly want. You don't only practice your communication skills. You have the opportunity to practice those skills any time, all day long. So you have continuous opportunities for continuous improvement as a communicator. You can't lead if you can't communicate. Leadership is influence, no doubt. I said it. I'll just give you a few thoughts about here. Many people mess this up, this idea of control and influence. And they say, well, I'm a leader. I can't control them. And so I can't do anything about that. To which I would say, that's true. You can't control other people. All we can control is ourselves, right? What we do, what we say, what we think, how we feel. what we choose. Those things are in our control. Everybody else, other people, we can't control, but we can influence. And leaders that try to control others by micromanaging, by command and control, all of those sorts of things, are fundamentally thinking they're controlling, but at the end of the day, they can't do that without there being unintended consequences, can there? So we've got to be clear that we're in the influence business, not in the control business, and to recognize that, which means we have to let go of some certainty around around how it's going to happen, because we can only influence. Here's the way I've been talking about this now for about the last year or so. And this is a powerful comparison for me, and I hope it will be for you as well. Is that as leaders, the question is, do you want commitment or do you want compliance? I know what I want. I want my team to be committed. I want our team to be committed to the work and to be committed to doing all the crazy stuff that has to happen to make something like Virtual LeaderCon happen, and to be committed to doing the stuff that they're doing differently this week because we're doing this all day long for 5 days. I want people to be committed and not just doing it because I said so. And I think you do too. And that's all mindset. If you want people to be committed, it will change the way you do things. Dave says, don't give answers, first ask questions. Now, there's certainly a time for us to give answers, right? But if we want people to be committed, we have to let them engage. We have to give them a chance. We have to treat them like the talented people that they are. We have to trust them and involve them and provide them with ownership. So that's all mindset. So what about the skills of influence? Well, whoops. Oh yeah, I guess I did want to say that. Actually, I forgot that I put that slide in there this morning. That leadership is not a power grab. It's not about I'm going to get all the power and all the control that I can get. And in fact, we have more power when we let go more. Okay, so let's talk about the skills that will help us be more influential. All the stuff we talked about communication. We're better communicators if we choose to ask first, right? Here's a big idea, and it goes along with Dave's point. Ask more, talk later. Ask more, assert less. Talk less and talk later. Because here's the thing, the minute that we start doing the talking, because we're the boss and there's a power differential, the sooner we do that, or the more we do that, the more likely people will shut down and say, well, nothing there for me, because the boss already decided. So communicating is a huge part of our ability to be better influencers. The ability to ask questions, again, as Dave said, being able to not just be willing to ask them, but ask good ones at the right time and ask them expectantly so people will actually have answers. To be empowering of others, and doing that will help us a great deal. And the habit set here is letting go of our ego and our control. Letting go of our need for control, letting go of our ego enough so that we can live from a place of gaining commitment rather than asking for or expecting compliance. Okay. Peggy says, don't be a micromanager. Here's the thing. No one wants to have a micromanager, and yet everyone's had one, which means somebody's doing it, right? We got to be careful. It's not us. Why is it important for, this is a statement that I wrote in that book, Remarkable Leadership. We're going to give away some more copies of it in a couple minutes. Why do I say that? Well, there's two big reasons why we need to be continual learners, because to be a great leader is very complex thing. So you're not going to figure it all out in one time or get to a point where you've got it all figured out. That's a reason. But a more practical reason for needing to be a continual learner is that you want your team members to be learning, right? Everybody here wants their team members to be learning. And if you want them to be learning, what's the best way you can influence them to be learning? To be doing it yourself, right? To be doing it yourself. When my kids were little, I wanted them to be readers. And so the best way I could encourage them to be readers was when they were very young to read to them, and then later on to have them see me reading a book and not just watching television. Our example is huge. To lead by example, as Shannon said, absolutely. How do we do it? Adrian, I'm looking at the clock, and the good news is you're not going to have to spend as much time with me before Mary joins us, because I'm taking longer here. I'm all excited here. I'm going faster. I'm taking more time than I thought. The best learners are little kids, and little kids are very curious. They're always asking questions. So if we want to be better learners every day while we're busy, we can ask more questions. My how points here are this, that I'm not saying doing what you're doing now, although I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that you're here in an event to learn about some things. And yet what I'm talking about in this list of how is what you can do right now, every day when you're busy, to still be a continual learner while you're leading, while you're living your life. And one is to just be more curious and ask more questions. It gives you a better chance to be a learner. When you allow yourself to be a beginner. So if you think about this event that we're doing, I've spent a lot of time behind this video camera in this office, and I've spent time on a lot of platforms doing a lot of things, but we've not used this platform until now. So I had to let go of a lot of stuff, recognize what I do know, but know there's a whole lot I don't know. And in order for us to be more effective learners, we've got to be beginners. And if we're not willing to be beginners, there's not much chance for us. We have to reflect. Every day gives us opportunities to learn new things. Are we stepping back and say, what do we get? That's why I said at the start that we're going to do a daily debrief every day. That time at the end of the day is for us to reflect on what happened today. What did we learn today? How can we use this in our daily work and life? And you can ask those questions while you're brushing your teeth, or while you're taking your shower. I wanted to put a whiteboard in my shower, though my wife wouldn't let me do that, because like I get good thoughts in the shower. I can't write. She wouldn't let me write them down in the shower. But the point is, find time to reflect. It can be while you're doing something else, between Zoom meetings. Like what worked here, what didn't work, what can I do differently next time? You got to, as I said earlier, connect what you're learning to what you already know, connect what you're learning to what you now need, and connecting those things together is a hugely important thing. And just practice. Practice being a learner. And another great way to learn is to share what we're learning. And so I hope that you'll do that here. And so I hope that if you're on Twitter, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go to Twitter right now and just send a tweet with something that you just learned so far this morning, and put the hashtag Virtual LeaderCon and put virtualleadercon.com there, and let people know what you learned. When we share things, we clarify it for ourselves for our own benefit and for others' benefits too. We learn by teaching, and so as we teach it, we learn it better for ourselves. So I've said we were going to talk about being a remarkable leader and doing it now. And clearly I got very ambitious, Adrian, about how much I thought I could do in this time slot. But I want to talk about a couple of things about doing it differently now. And here's one of them. It comes in this book, because so many of you now are leading remotely, right? So in this book, The Long Distance Leader, we have 19 rules. And the first rule is leadership first, location second. In other words, you already know something about leading. Don't forget that, right? So while the context of your leadership may be different now, and you may be using this webcam all day and all of those things, you don't see your people like you have in the past. It's still leadership. So it still needs to start there. Okay, it still needs to start there. In that book, we bring out this model we call the 3-gear model. We have really high-tech names for our models, the 3-0 model and the 3-gear model. This model says this, that everything that we already know how to do as a leader and all the things that we need to do as a leader now must be mediated by the tools and the technology. So we must learn to use them and use them well so that we can get the outcomes that we want. And so to be a remarkable leader now means we need to understand the situation that we're in and recognize that the technology is an important piece of this. And you may be leading a remote team now, but chances are you'll be leading a hybrid team later. And the hybrid team to us is some people are there and some people aren't. This week, I've got a hybrid team. Today, there are 3 members of the team downstairs, socially distanced, and everyone else is at a distance. But for the last 185 days, it's been pretty much everybody's been working from home 100% of the time. So we have to recognize that there's greater complexity to do it this way than what we've done before. We have to recognize that we must be more intentional. If I could give you one thing about leading in remotely that you must do differently, is everything must be intentional, because so many things happened because you saw someone in the hallway, happened because you saw their door was open, happened because you were reminded, because you were in this space where we work. We must be more intentional about everything we do as a leader in terms of communicating, in terms of a whole bunch of other things as well, because everything is now mediated by technology. And when people go to work from home, trust and relationships are going to be negatively impacted unless we do things intentionally to maintain them and keep them in a more healthy place. Okay. So what you're experiencing now isn't just that everyone's working from home. You're doing that all in the context of COVID, right? And so it's important for you to remember these things. Number one is that it's more than about being remote now. And we were forced to go before, but now we're still there. And so how do we deal with this all? Because the virus adds another layer to the complexity. The virus adds another layer to what we need to do as a leader and as a team member to be more successful. Because I'm going to put some bullets up here. You already know all these things, right? The world is uncertain. People are wondering about their health. Some people are more worried about the virus itself than others. But all of us know that that's out there. Some people are dealing with a number of members of our team, including Adrian, whose kids have the day off today, but people are dealing with their kids and school and how they would have to deal with that and all the uncertainty related to all of that. And there's changes in all of our lives. We're not getting to go to restaurants the way we like to do, and 100 other, you didn't maybe go on the vacation that you planned, whatever. There's all these changes in our lives, right? And did I mention uncertainty? Let me just say that again. You're experiencing these things. All of your team members are experiencing these things. What I've been saying to people for a while is that we're all having the same experience, but experiencing it differently. And so it's important for us as leaders to recognize all of that. And it's because that we're all experiencing it differently that we are now in what I call the age of empathy. And as for us to be a highly effective leader, we always need the ability and the need to be empathetic has always been true. I call today the age of empathy because it's never been more obvious how true it is. And I love that several of you in your questions, in your 6-word statements about communication, use that word empathy, which is fantastic. Okay. Here's the reality of what the life that we are all in right now. People are polarized about all sorts of things. They are hurting for all sorts of reasons. Chris says drive fear out of the organization. That's W. Edwards Deming from the 1950s, and it's absolutely as true now as it ever was. People are experiencing things differently, as I've already said, and people are unsure. Have I mentioned that yet? And it's for all of those reasons that we must be more empathetic. So here are some ways that we can do it. We can recognize the need to do it. We can listen to our teams more. I'm going to go to the last bullet next. We can focus on feelings first. And if you ask my team, they can tell you in the chat whether I succeed or not. But I can tell you that I try hard to open conversations with, so how are you doing? What's going on? How is this affecting you? Or asking the questions about what's going on today. The reality is that if we don't ask about that stuff at the beginning and the front end, the tasks will overtake us and we'll go right on to the next thing, next. And we won't get the chance to be empathetic. Do it first. We need to assume less and ask more, just because this is how you feel about the pandemic and this is how you feel about the situation. This is how you're dealing with your kids at home or whatever. Doesn't mean that's what everyone else is at. And just because you have an opinion about something, don't judge someone else's. Our job is to acknowledge and not to judge. And I don't know if one of my team members or one of our team members is here right now, Erica, but a while back, she was on a Zoom call with me or 2 or 3 of us, I think. And all of a sudden her cat hopped up here and we saw a full view of the cat's behind. And we all just started laughing. You know, you've all had situations in the last few weeks, the last few months now, where things didn't go quite the way we wanted, right? We need to grant people grace. It's okay. We can laugh. We can say it's just fine. People are struggling. Grant them some grace. Be patient with them. There you go. Peggy says, we just talk for an hour about what we're experiencing. Yeah. Because see, Peggy, as a leader, you're on the team too. And here's the thing, as leaders, a lot of times we think we've got to buck up. We've got to be the strong ones. We've got to figure it all out. And we need this as much as the rest of the team does. And Nikki is exactly right. We can try to let them know that we understand, but be careful about sharing our own story, because even if our intention isn't to one up, that may be exactly how it comes across. So we got to be really, really careful about that. Yeah. Okay. I see that Adrian, you've answered those questions. So thank you. So we are living in an age of empathy, and I hope that makes sense to you, and I hope that you take that seriously. And I've answered the question, I think, as they've come along. I'm just going to close with this, and then I'm going to bring Adrian back. Being a remarkable leader now is an opportunity to make an even bigger difference in the world around us.